Hello, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with the great Meghan Codd. She is here today to carry on from our conversation from the podcast interview that aired earlier this week. In the podcast, we talked about communicating with Spanish-speaking patients, and she gave us so many great phrases to communicate with our patients, to make them feel at ease, to help them be comfortable, to really maybe get out of our comfort zones a little bit and learn to say a few phrases to really help our patients know that we're doing our best to communicate with them. However, we really only stayed in pre-op during our interview and we never actually made it into the operating room. And so we are going to have part 2 of this interview today to look at those OR phrases and to really break down ways that we can communicate with our patients before they go to sleep. But to get everybody up to speed, Meghan Codd is a Spanish communication coach, and she's the founder of Mi Vida Spanish, which is a company that is dedicated to helping medical professionals learn Spanish and to help improve their communication with their Spanish-only speaking patients. And Meghan generously agreed to come do this interview with us and help us continue the learning. So Meghan, thank you so much for joining us.
De nada, Melanie. Es un placer. Pleasure to be here. Happy to join you again, and especially since we didn't get to, actually roll in. We were wheels in, but we didn't get any further. So I'm excited to be back.
Yes, I am so excited. Before we jump into more phrases, though, I actually thought of a couple of questions that maybe would have been good to ask in the podcast. And I thought it would be good to maybe set the stage for what it feels like on a personal level when you can't communicate, when you struggle to communicate or don't understand the language, because you mentioned that you had lived in Chile and in Spain and in Italy. How did it feel for you when you were learning the language and maybe you struggled to communicate your needs?
Oh my goodness, there's so many stories that I could tell. And I mean, anyone that's lived abroad and, learned a language that, lived in a country where they weren't a native speaker, they were learning a language, can tell you that there are so many moments where you just want to have your personality back. I remember thinking that I just want to have personality again in this language. I can't express, I can't be who I am in this language. It's just it's a battle just to get clear communication, just get a point across. I mean, I can remember specific instances of, for example, being in the back of a taxi cab in Madrid, and this was before Uber. This was before, you had to tell the address where you were going, and you had to know how to say all of the things. And I had studied Spanish, junior high, high school, college, and this was a study abroad experience in college. But in the actual situation, when you're kind of in the pressure point, you're in the hot seat, your anxiety level goes up. And this taxi driver was just trying to have a conversation. He was trying to explain something, he was trying to ask me questions, but I could not understand anything he was saying. And I thought, I can't believe I study this stuff. I know Spanish, or I thought I knew Spanish, but this can translate, and I remember crying to the point of frustration of crying in the back of this cab because I could not understand what he was asking me. And so I can just see, this is one little anecdote, like alone crying in a cab in Madrid from not understanding what a cabbie says. Imagine that transferred over to a medical situation. You're at a doctor's office, you're about to go into a surgery, and your anxiety levels through the roof. I mean, I was in a taxi. That's a much lower stress situation, but I can imagine just what a patient would go through in that situation. I was a patient in Chile. I went to the doctor. I had a couple of ankle sprains that I needed to get treatment and physical therapy for. And those are, the moments where I would be looking for, in my dictionary, and this was before I had online dictionaries, the online apps where I could just pop up any word I needed in the moment. I would prepare what I wanted to ask and wanted to say, and the questions I had about treatment, because I wanted to make sure that I could communicate, because I had to really advocate for my own care, because there was a language barrier there. I was still learning Spanish, because Spanish in Spain isn't the same as Spanish in Chile, where I had my ankle injuries. So as I was going to these different contexts in different countries, the Spanish didn't remain the same. I had to learn how to communicate again, basically. So in the same context with a patient, or with patients from different backgrounds, like we have in the States for Spanish speaking patients, they're not all from Mexico.
Right.
Latin America is bigger than Mexico. That you may have patients from South America, Central America, Mexico, that, different Spanishes and different cultural backgrounds. So the same thing happened to me as a patient, where I want to prepare for this medical encounter, to make sure that I was getting proper treatment. Right. So, because the doctors that I saw did not, had limited English, they could do maybe a greeting or so, but I really, and at this point, spoke much more Spanish. The whole thing was in Spanish. So, as just thinking about just the point about the anxiety level as a learner, as a learner, being in an uncomfortable situation, out of your comfort zone, it already is a barrier for your communication. It already puts up walls between you and whoever you're trying to communicate with, just in the simple fact that you're nervous. Yeah. Words that you'll be able to remember when you're calm.
Well, I know exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feeling, that anxiety, because I actually know quite a bit of Spanish. I really do. I can really hold my own in quite a few scenarios, unless I have to think on my feet all of a sudden and I'm not prepared. And then the anxiety goes up and my brain, I think, just turns to mush. And I'm like, wait, I don't know what to say anymore. And then you get me 10 minutes later back by myself and I think about it again. I'm like, oh, I should have said this, this, and this. And I know what to say, but in the moment, I didn't. And it either just being caught off guard or the anxiety of it, or making sure because I will overthink it and really want to make sure I say it exactly the right way so I don't offend by saying something wrong. And then if you think it to death, then you can't say anything. So I realize that there's a lot of variables in that, but just, yeah, that anxiety of being unsure if your needs are being met, if people are understanding, if you are able to communicate, and if the person that you're speaking to really knows what you need. And it's a lot bigger than just say it louder and slower and they might understand. And I know that we fall into that trap a lot. Louder and slower does not equal understanding. So with that in mind, though, why don't we jump into those OR phrases, those phrases that we can have in our back pocket and not be nervous about, so that we can speak to our patients and just get them in the OR, put them at ease, and help them go off to sleep. I'm going to let you take the reins at this and be my teacher, and also the audiences as well. You've got some really cool learning slides pulled up here, so take it away. Let's learn some stuff.
Muy bien. And I must say, Melanie, on the podcast, you're like the star estudiante. Because you do have your background in Spanish, as you mentioned. It's there. It's just like applying it at the moment that you need it in kind of a pressure situation where you need to have it right on the tip of your tongue. So it's going to be really fun to do these phrases with you. But I must say that, you have, and this, again, this is going to be with a blur. This is, even if you have a phrase badge with you that you can have with you in the OR, something that you can reference just to, in those moments, like, oh, I really need to be able to say this, on your badge buddy. Of course, laminated and appropriate for the OR, but something to have with you, that some of these phrases could be really helpful in those cases that you are nervous. This is like, you're not used to doing this in Spanish, but you still want to be able to.
Right.
So just a quick note about that. And these phrases are specifically, for the OR, but I want to mention that they are for their basic Spanish. We're not going for complete, sentences, drawn out sentences in Spanish here. This is for communicating clearly, what you need to communicate as the caregiver to your patient, in the shortest way possible, so that the patient will still clearly get the idea. So, someone who may be watching this video that's like, well, that's not how you say that grammatically correct in Spanish. This is the short version, basic Spanish, that's still clear. So I just want to mention that first. And also, these phrases go along with your body language. So the actual words you're saying go along with another language that you speak, which is body language, gestures, eye contact, smile. And so I'm going to be talking about the gestures that you use, which is why I love that we're on video so that we can see those things as we're seeing the phrases as well. Because language is visual.
Right.
So when we're on the podcast together, it's like, oh, I really want to be able to show you as well. So now we can. All right. So wheels in. You've probably already introduced yourself to your patient as if you are doing pre-op care. But again, as the patient comes into the OR, they're encountering more people, right, that they haven't been introduced to. So it's nice if you haven't met the patient yet, of course, introduce yourself. Greetings are cultural note. Greetings are very important generally in Spanish-speaking cultures, not to skip that part. So makes your patient feel welcome and comfortable. Again, trying to bring down that anxiety level, put your patient at ease. So all part of that is the greeting. This is, so I'm going to do the part in Spanish here. And actually, I'm going to jump over to my, can you tell me, Melanie, are you seeing, when I do this, are you seeing my cursor or not?
I am. Yes, I can see it.
Okay, perfecto. Muy bien. We have another visual clue. Okay. So I'm going to do the Spanish phrase, and then, our audience can see the English below it. So I'll just do the Spanish phrase and see for you, Melanie, how it goes. Or maybe you can just try this one first. I know you know this one.
Yeah. Do we have a patient name that we're going to be using, or should I make one up?
Let's see what you come up with.
Okay, we'll go with Maria. We will have a patient. We'll have a patient named Maria. So, hola Maria, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien, perfecto. And I think we mentioned this in the podcast too, but just taking a moment to make sure you're pronouncing your patient's name correctly is going to mean a lot, both for the operating room and when they're coming out of anesthesia.
Yes, when they're waking up, for sure. They'll respond to their name if they understand it and you've said it correctly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's part of just taking that for a moment. Okay, muy bien. Hola, Maria, ¿cómo está? And of course, your body language, eye contact is great. Spanish-speaking patients in general, Hispanic patients, eye contact is very appropriate and help you connect with that patient. Smile with your eyes, with the mask on. ¿Cómo está? Okay, muy bien. And this next one, okay, we have a few phrases here. I put this in a little bit of a bundle. So the next part, do you want to give this first one a shot, Melanie?
Yes, everybody's going to love my Spanish reading skills. Somos su equipo médico.
Perfecto.
¿Es correcto?
Está perfecto. Sí. Somos su equipo. And, equipo, sometimes people will say equipo when they see it written. But I just remember teamwork is the key to success. So it's equipo.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Somos su equipo médico.
Mm-hmm. So if you are interested, say you are the nurse in the OR helping this patient or in charge of this patient, you can introduce your medical
team. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, here's your team in the room as we roll in and let them know who people are. That makes sense.
Yeah. And even that, like, wow, I have a whole medical team, here to work on my behalf. That's pretty cool. So maybe one of those things that will also help put your patient at ease instead of introducing every person individually, because it may not be necessary. Just keep it simple. Somos su equipo médico. And this next part, this next phrase here.
That word looks hard. Okay. No se preocupe. I don't know if I did that right.
No se preocupe.
Preocupe. Don't worry.
Exacto. Exactly. This is one that we were working on with Justin in the podcast.
Right.
And it's a great one for nurses to have right on, one of those pocket phrases. No se preocupe. Because again, lowering anxiety level, putting your patient at ease. And then let's do the last little phrase in this one.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Está en buenas manos. Oh, buenas manos. Sorry, I said.
Yeah, buenas manos. Está en buenas manos. You're in good hands. Literally, buenas manos.
Yeah.
So always, healthcare care providers like to know the body parts in Spanish. This is like a 2-for-1. You get a comforting phrase and a body part.
Very helpful.
Está en buenas manos. Mm-hmm. I know this is one that you like, Melanie, that you told me no matter what, this is always one of those phrases that you use with your patients. We're going to take good care of you.
You're in good hands. Just the reassurance that we know that you're nervous. We know you're worried, and we want you to know that we're here to look out for you and to make sure that we do everything we can for you to have a good outcome.
Yes. As I said, I would want you to be my nurse. I would want to hear this phrase, from Spain, Chile, or the state, wherever country I'm in, I would want to hear this. So hearing it in your own language is very powerful. Yeah. Okay, muy bien. That was a 3-for-1. This is like the intros and the welcome to the OR. So now I think we're ready. Vamos adelante. Let's go forward. Okay, muy bien. Melanie, this is a phrase that you and I have talked about.
Yeah, we say this one a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's probably good to know. I mean, you've told me why, but just repeat why. Why do you need this phrase?
Okay, there's a couple of reasons. One, the bed is very narrow. Moving around a whole lot, your patient could fall off the bed, right? We don't want that to happen. But also, you use it a lot when patients are waking up from anesthesia. They're disoriented. They're still kind of out of it. They're unsure what's going on, and naturally they start to move around. They might even fight you. Different experiences, and being able to tell them, please don't move, please lay still. It just kind of helps get back into their brain. Oh yeah, I'm in surgery. I need to stay here. And basic commands are very easy to follow, very straightforward, and our patients need to be reminded, hey, don't move. And not all the time, but most of the time they follow and they comply and stop rolling around.
And actually, as you were just saying that, explaining, I thought even better after por favor, you use the patient name again. This is a good one to apply your patient name. Por favor, María, no se mueva.
No se mueva.
Or María, por favor, no se mueva. Go ahead. I
no, that's fine, because I was curious on how to say that word. Por favor, María, no se mueva.
Mm-hmm. Perfecto.
Neat.
Yeah.
Mueva.
Yes.
No mueva. Could you just even be like, no mueva, if you couldn't remember anything else? Would that get the point across?
No mueva. That would. Or no mover.
No mover. Mover. Okay.
No mover. Yep. And we're going to see mover again in just a moment, and this is a good one to have, like one of your pocket words, because you're going to be asking the patient to move in different ways. So you could just say no mover, but the por favor is the key one here. And we've talked about this, Melanie. It just indicates that you're about to ask them to do something.
Right.
And in this case, not to do something. So por favor, having that right in there too. Okay, vamos adelante. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Melanie, vamos. Let's see if you can go ahead and...
Por favor, cambiar a esta cama. A esta.
Sí, cambiar a esta cama.
Esta cama, okay.
And cambiar, so it's just kind of literally change to this bed. And again, so here's where you bring in your body language. Just as a check, if your pronunciation may not be clear to the patient, what's going to clarify it is your body language.
Right.
Just show them where you want them to go.
Slapping on that OR table, be like, over here, come on.
Aquí.
Yeah.
Exacto. It will be very clear with as you add your body language in there. This is, hopeful as you're learning the phrases and learning to pronounce them more clearly, your body language is going to be your support. Okay, muy bien. So the patient, we've got them changed over to the operating room table or the other bed. Y vamos adelante. Okay, and this one is, it may depend, the positioning of the patient, but I just put this one in here to have an example of, and let's see, vamos, Melanie.
Okay, I think I got the por favor part down. Por favor, no, por favor, usted boca arriba.
Muy bien. Muy bien. And again, I'm mentioning these are shortened phrases, so just to get the point across clearly. Usted boca arriba, this is just kind of like you. And the usted is a nice way you would address an adult. Usted instead of tú. Don't worry if you use tú. It's not the end of the world. It's just, as we're learning it, usted for adult patients, boca arriba. So you on your back, basically. But of course, you have the por favor here. You can add the name Maria, usted, boca arriba. All of those words together, definitely going to understand what you're needing. And you have your body language. You need to indicate, your back, or
there's a couple of times that you would use this phrase, like after the surgery is over and you get your patient from the OR table back onto the stretcher, your chronic side sleepers or stomach sleepers are naturally going to try to roll over just because that's how they naturally sleep. And reminding them, you need to lie on your back. You need to roll over, lie on your back. Having something literally in your back pocket to communicate with them. Lie on your back, lie on your back. That is very helpful. I probably say it to 90% of my patients when in the OR each day, just because they're asleep and they're going to turn to their natural sleeping position. And then also, I mean, a lot of times patients are on their backs to be intubated before we position them for surgery. So we're going to have it at the beginning. We're going to have it at the end. It's a good phrase to have in your pack of phrases for communication.
Yeah, I didn't know that it could go, I was imagining this just for operating room, positioning your patient, letting them know, but this is, even after.
Yeah.
Even after and post-op. Just a quick note about, as caregivers always like to know the body parts in Spanish. You have a 2-for-1 here. Boca. I don't know. ¿Qué significa boca, Melanie?
I'm guessing that's back.
You would think it's back, right? Because it starts with the B. Espalda is back in Spanish. Okay. La espalda. This one, boca, second guess, boca?
I don't know. I don't know this word.
We have Boca Raton, Florida, right?
Yes.
Boca Raton is rat's mouth, Florida.
Really?
Yeah. Boca Raton. So this is your boca. I'm going to go back to my slide here. Boca, mouth. And arriba is up.
So, okay. Okay, but mouth up, which would be back on your back. And that's really interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Because en la espalda might not be as clear. This will be probably a little bit clearer for your patient as to what mouth is. I'm going to be on, my laying, so my mouth is up.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, I like that. I wouldn't think about that, but yeah. Okay, that's really cool. Easy.
Boca arriba. Yep, and arriba will come in again in our following phrases. So, usted boca arriba. Bueno. Hopefully your patient is starting to be positioned as you'd like, but in case they're not, and you still have more requests. So this is all about moving. These next ones are all about moving and helping your patient move. And communicating that clearly. So, okay, vamos, Melanie.
All right, por favor, mover aquí un poco.
And I actually was not on our video. Did you say aquí with your body language?
Well, I actually didn't, but I should have, because I would probably be patting the bed or like going like just a little bit or something to gesture that it's just a little, just move over here a little bit or move up a little or down. But yeah, definitely in the body language as well if I was doing it in person.
All of that. Mover aquí un poco. Un poco. Yep. And indicating just like you did. Perfecto. Ok, mover aquí y después.
Bien, gracias.
Yeah, it's nice to have a phrase just to let them know you're done. You did it. Like
Yes,
you arrived. Like that's good. You don't need to keep going. Bien, gracias. You can just say that. It's nice. Okay. So let's say that there is your patient's positioned as you need them. If and you know we could go into to the right, to the left, up and down. You know, arriba is up now. But if you're, you know, patting the bed in the areas that you need your patient to move, aquí, un poco aquí, un poco aquí, un poco aquí, you can indicate with your hands instead of having to remember all of those.
Your lefts and rights and ups and downs.
But as you mentioned, you know, laterality, if you want to get into that, to be able to ask in pre-op, you know, which side? And we talked about this in the podcast too.
Right.
Izquierda is the left side. Derecha is the right side. But in the OR, your body language, your gestures will help you with those directions. Does that sound, I mean, would you agree, Melanie, or you often need your rights and lefts?
I have found in communicating with any patient after they've been given some Versed or a little medicine to, you know, to relax them,
yes,
they're pretty good at following just, hey, scooch over. And, you know, you like come to me or scooch that way, or you pat the bed the direction they want to go, and anybody can follow those kinds of simple instructions, and you don't necessarily need the right and the left. I think the actual right and left really comes in handy in pre-op when you're talking to them, like we talked about on the podcast, when you're trying to confirm laterality, or you want to make sure that, you know, we all agree on what we're operating on. For sure, you want to know those lefts and rights and whatever. But when it comes to patient positioning in the OR, if you can, you know, un poco aquí, or scoot them a little bit and pat the bed, they can follow that.
Okay, muy bien. Okay, confirmed then. These are like key essentials.
Yeah.
En español. Okay, good. That's good to know. Okay, el próximo. So let's say your patient is positioned as you need them for surgery. Then, you know, like the comforts, right? They're positioned, but again, trying to put them at ease. I think this is one you probably used before, Melanie.
Oh, yes. I asked them if they were cold quite a bit. Rolling into the room, we even let them know, you know, that it's going to be cold and that we'll get a warm blanket for them. Or when they are, even, you can even use this phrase in pre-op if you see them like shivering, you know they're probably cold, or in recovery as well. But yeah, tiene frío. Are you cold? And then obviously that leads to, hopefully I'm going to do something about it, you know, and I'm going to make you warm.
And so it's not, you know, it's always nice to have that extra intonation in your voice, just as you're making it clear that you're asking them a question. Tiene frío. Just as you would in English, raise your voice at the end so they know what you're asking. Pero perfecto. You said it right on the money. Muy bien. Muy bien, Melanie. Tiene frío. And then you can tell them, you know, specifically what you're going to do about that if they are cold. Like, well, okay, if you just say, okay, you know,
okay. Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce this word here. Is it traigo? Una cobija? Is that right?
Muy cerca. You are very close. This one is traigo.
Oh, okay. Traigo. Una cobija.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Because we have the A vowel and the I vowel. So I traigo.
Okay.
Perfecto. Una cobija. And you got that J instead of cobija.
Cobija. See.
Just like,
okay, what if you wanted to just be extra informative and say warm blanket? How would you say that?
So you can say, okay, le traigo una cobija calentita.
Calentita?
Sí.
Okay.
Calentita. So caliente.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't want to bring you a hot blanket. So
that's actually gonna raise their anxiety level. We're just gonna throw a hot blanket on you. Like, no, it burns. So calentita is like a very, you know, they'll know you mean warm, and it's not hot, it's warm. And calentita just indicates that, yep, warm. So cobija, calentita. Yes. Okay, muy bien. All right. Próximo, vamos adelante. Okay, it's almost time. It's almost time for surgery. Everything's almost ready.
And I go to sleep. We're putting oxygen on them.
So that they know, your patient may never have been in surgery before. This is this thing that you're giving me.
Yeah.
So it's nice to explain. Okay, ¿cómo se dice en español?
Esto es oxígeno? I don't know that word either. Oxígeno?
And if you said oxígeno, your patient would probably understand, and especially if they have been in the States and have heard English for a while. It depends on how, assimilated, how much Spanglish and English that they've heard and been around. This is one of those words that sounds very similar in Spanish and English. In Spanish, it's actually oxígeno.
Okay, I wondered if it was going to be an H. Okay, and I wasn't sure. So oxígeno. Okay.
Yeah. So that G sounds like we would pronounce an H in English. Yep. So GE in Spanish, when you have that, it's he.
He. Oxígeno.
Muy bien. You're learning. I can tell it's coming back.
Well, I remember, you remember some of the grammar, you remember some of the rules, and then which one is it? And then I know when I see a G, I'm like, is it a G? Is it an H? I don't know. Interesting.
That combination GE?
GE is always an H. Okay.
Oxígeno. Muy bien. Esto es oxígeno. Okay, dale. See if you can do it this time.
Esto es oxígeno.
Muy bien. And would you smile when you say it when you give that to your patient?
Probably not. I'm giggling at my own pronunciation because I know the people watching this who are much more fluent than me are probably giggling at my struggles, just because it's funny to hear people struggle when they, say words wrong. But no, I would not be giggling with them. Definitely not.
I was just wondering. I was not giggling at your Spanish. I was just wondering if, what kind of expression would you have when you're giving that to your patient?
You have your mask that they're going to breathe, and you don't want them to breathe deeply. And the CRNA is generally the one that's there, giving them that. But it's just more of a, here's the mask. Here it is, and esto es oxígeno. It's more of just a matter of fact. This is what it is. Putting it on your face, take some deep breaths, but knowing what you're breathing, every patient, I think, regardless of their language, wants to know what you're putting on their face and what's blowing in their face when they're breathing inside that mask.
Yeah, right. Is this is the point where I'm going to be going under anesthesia? Am I being gassed? What is this? This is definitely a good phrase to have.
Yeah.
To be clear. Esto es oxígeno. Muy bien. Okay, and as you kind of already led into this, Melanie, this is our next instruction.
Por favor, respire profundo.
Perfecto. Have you used this one before in español?
I have used it, my version of it, but profundo, yes, and respire profundo or whatever. I don't know that until you mentioned it, I don't know that I remembered starting a sentence with por favor would indicate that I was about to ask a question. So remembering to put por favor in front of those commands, it's polite for sure, but it also cues them in that I'm going to ask them to do something. And so remembering that, I think, is a very good takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. You're about to ask them to do something. Respire profundo. Okay, hopefully at this point, what is about to happen at this point in the process? Melanie,
if we've got them breathing their oxygen, we're about to start some medication. They're about to go to sleep. We might tell them to pick out a place for a good dream, or, we'll see you when you wake up. We're going to be we're going to be taking very good care of you. Sweet dreams, whatever. And they should be very quickly off in their own dreamland pretty soon.
After this. Okay. So, quick quiz. How would you say you're in good hands, for example?
Buenas manos. I remember that part. Esta es something. Buenas manos, right? Something? Am I close? This is good hands. We don't want that. See, I don't remember.
You remembered buenas manos, which I think is the hardest part of the phrase. Yeah. Now just está en.
Está en. Yeah, está en, not esta es. Está en buenas manos. Sí.
Perfecto. So you can get a 2-for-1 for that phrase. When you're bringing them into the OR, 3-for-1, pre-op, OR, and also right as they're about to go under for anesthesia. It's a nice one to have. And then you also already mentioned it.
Oh yeah, nos vemos pronto.
Mm-hmm. This is a short way. You had the pick out a nice dream. We'll see you soon. We'll see you when you wake up, just to indicate to the patient that this will be very, this will feel short. We'll see you soon. Nos vemos pronto, Maria. And hearing your name as one of the last things.
Yeah.
Comforting, right?
Definitely.
Okay, I really am probably in good hands if they know my name and they're pronouncing it correctly. They've paid attention to detail. It's comforting.
And they're talking to me and they're making an effort to communicate with me. I think it goes a long way.
That's the starter pack of phrases for the OR. It's the starter pack. Just to be that caregiver, that nurse that is able to give that extra bit of care. And again, that it's not just a practice for your patients. It is that, but it's also a practice for you as a caregiver, as a nurse, to be able to feel like you have done your job for this patient. You've been able to do the best you can as a professional to put this patient at ease and prepare them for what can be a very traumatic experience, a very anxiety-inducing experience. You're doing it every day, right? Preparing patients for surgery, but this is an experience that they are definitely, hopefully, not doing every day and not used to.
Yeah, I think a good reminder for all of us is when it's our day to day. We do this every single day, 9-10 times a day, sometimes depending on the room you're working in. But for every single patient that we have, this is a once in a lifetime maybe event. They have not had surgery every single day and been in here every single day like we are. We are working in this environment and they are experiencing our environment, and how they experience that environment depends on us and the effort that we take and go through to make sure that they have a good experience. It's a heavy burden to bear, but also it's important that we take it seriously and don't become so just used to the four walls of the hospital and we do it all the time. It's no big deal. It's fine. Well, yeah, for us it is, but we need to remember their experience and their side of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, realizing that the room is cold. Like that is not something that patient may be prepared for. They don't know what the oxygen mask is. They don't know what's coming out of that. So it's some really good notes to keep in mind, and for you too, so that you get to feel like you are, on the top of your game. Yeah.
So Meghan, I know it's just the tip of the iceberg. It just touches the bare minimum basics of communication, but that is what we wanted to accomplish in this entire podcast season related to communication. How can we communicate with our patients? Looking at the fact that all of our patients don't look like us. They don't sound like us. They don't understand language as a primary language like maybe we do. Or it's just, there are so many differences and so many things we can work on to improve to communicate with our patients effectively. And we have a large population of Spanish-speaking patients. So to be able to make their experience more comforting, less anxiety reducing by learning a few phrases and doing our best to communicate and understand their culture is huge. And so I cannot tell you enough how thankful I am that you joined us for the podcast. And then for this, I mean, I really am just so thankful for you sharing your expertise with our audience.
Oh, I mean, es un placer. As I said, it really is a pleasure, because my goal is that Spanish will actually will be useful, not just, if you're traveling or for an experience that you may or may not have with a Spanish speaker. It's something that you actually need in your day-to-day, that you can apply and that's useful and that you're using to help other people. So that's really the ultimate reward for me. So es un placer. It's a pleasure.
Well,
pleasure.
Thank you. I will also point out to all of you watching that just like Meghan had some slides to go through for our pre-op phrases. For the podcast interview, she provided this really cool PDF that you can download if you have the app. The app is available on iTunes and Android. You can download the app, and there's some extra bonus content that you can download with the episode, and you can get this really cool PDF form that really breaks down those phrases that we talked about to really help you have access to these resources, so you can communicate. You can see it in writing. You can see it. I know for me, if I see it in writing, it helps me versus just hearing it. So there's a resource there for you as well. Meghan, is there also a link for you speaking them or something that they can find out so they can hear them too?
Yeah. So once you find the actual download for the PDF, there's like a little gift box. If you're using the app, you have to kind of click into the episode and look for the little gift box. I was trying to find it myself the other day. I was like, where is it?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's in there, but you had to find it.
Yep. So once you find the gift and you download it, you open up the PDF, and then there's a little phrase that says practice with me here, or let's practice together. And that'll take you to a video with me saying, hola, soy Meghan. And we start to practice the pronunciation together of some of those phrases, those pre-op phrases specifically. So I would love to see you again there.
Yeah, definitely. Take advantage of it. It's free resources. It's there to help you. And then we would also appreciate it if you enjoyed this interview, enjoyed this video content. Please like it and share it, and introduce your other perioperative coworkers to our content so that we can continue the education and continue improving perioperative care for our patients. You can find Meghan on LinkedIn. You can connect with her there. She'd be more than happy to be connected with you, but you can see all of her content there as well, and really be connected with Mi Vida Spanish and everything that she has to offer. So thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for taking the time to learn with us. And we will see you again soon. Hasta luego.
De nada, hasta luego. Adiós.